Happy to see you.
Hi, Victoria.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. A lot of people are coming now.
Okay.
So they are entering to the Zoom. And we are very happy to have you here and very grateful. And this is a big honor to have Jill Levitt with us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. And this is our group for TEAM-CBT Mexico. And all of us want to listen to you and to learn from you today. So I will present you. I am working now with my dear friend and colleague, Silvina Bucci. I don't know if you know her. I think you know her. Silvina.
Hi, Jill.
Hi, Silvina.
Thank you for coming visiting. You're such an amazing inspiration for all of us. It is a pleasure to have you here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. I'm impressed with all that you guys are doing. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you so
thank
much.
you, because this is a great support for us. So I will introduce you in Spanish, and we are going to translating, but now I will speak in Spanish. Entonces, como vemos, ya tenemos aquí a la doctora Jill Levitt. Ella es cofundadora de Feeling Good Institute y es la directora del entrenamiento de Feeling Good Institute, y bueno, es la gran pareja del doctor David Burns. Ellos son el dúo dinámico, dynamic duo, ¿no? With David Burns. Entonces, es una gran maestra, tiene una facilidad para enseñar, y bueno, pues hoy es un gran honor el tenerla con nosotros y escucharla y aprender. El día de hoy vamos a hablar acerca de cómo evaluamos la resistencia al proceso. Si se recuerdan, la resistencia al proceso es cuando el paciente quiere cambiar, pero que no quiere hacer lo que tiene que cambiar para estar mejor, ¿sí? Es decir, no quiere hacer la tarea. Okay, so...
I understood most of that, but I can't speak it.
Okay. I like that, because you now are going to understand me when I am in your training groups, and it's so difficult for me to speak in English.
Yeah.
But I can do it better in Spanish, and I am a little smarter in Spanish, Jill. But you can begin if you want.
Okay. So, Victoria, I just wanted to ask you, obviously, so my presentation is in English. So are you needing to translate some of what I'm saying, or does everybody, will everybody understand what I'm saying in English?
Most of all can understand, but there are some that don't. So we will make little translations. Okay. So they will understand what you are saying. We are going to do it fast, the translation.
Whatever is good for you. So just feel free, Victoria, Silvina, whoever, if you want to interrupt me, just, either interrupt me or wave at me or whatever, if you want me to stop talking. And also I'll try, I know that I talk fast because that's just how I talk, but I will try hard to talk slowly, but sometimes once I get going, I forget. So you can interrupt me also.
Thank you very much. And you can share your presentation.
Okay, I will do that right now.
Victoria, do you think it may be a good idea that we do everything in English, and if there's somebody who's not understanding, to raise their hand and we translate?
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Okay, great.
Okay. So can you see my slides now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll get started. Yeah, so thank you so much for having me, and it's an honor to be joining your group. I hope that you'll learn something today. And if it's helpful, Victoria, I can save my slides later, as like handouts or something, and I can share them with you as a PDF. That's totally fine. I didn't think to do that ahead of time, but I'm happy to.
Thank you very much.
I know this is on my time zone, but basically this is my plan, is to spend a few minutes talking to you guys about what is process resistance across, the different conceptualizations. So depression and anxiety, as well as relationship problems and habits and addictions, just briefly, so we can all kind of think about what are we talking about when we talk about process resistance. And then we're going to spend most of the time talking about kind of the 4 methods that David Burns has developed to address process resistance. So that's dangling the carrot and the gentle ultimatum, the fallback position, and sitting with open hands. And then I'll do a demonstration with Victoria. She can play the patient and I'll play the therapist and show that to you guys. And Victoria, when I do that demonstration, I can also kind of tell you guys a little bit about an excerpt, like a practice that I usually do in my practice groups, in case you guys decide to do it on your own, in the future.
That's excellent. I will translate it quickly.
Okay.
Nos va a demostrar cómo hacemos la resistencia al proceso y nos va a enseñar los 4 métodos que usa el doctor David Burns para trabajar con esto, que es, vamos a empezar con colgando la zanahoria, después vamos a hacer gentle ultimatum, open hands and fallback position. Esto es lo que hoy nos va a enseñar el día Jill, y al final va a hacer una pequeña demostración conmigo. Yo voy a ser su paciente. Los que puedan prender su cámara, se los vamos a agradecer muchísimo, por favor. Okay, thank you, Jill.
Okay, so basically when we're talking about process resistance, the question that you want to be asking, the question that we're thinking about is, what is the hard work that the patient is going to have to do to get better that they're not really going to want to do, right? So when you guys talk about outcome resistance, you're talking about a patient maybe not really wanting to change or something, some good reasons not to change. But process resistance, we're saying they really want to change, but the work involved is really hard. And so what is the work that's going to be really hard? So for depression, the work oftentimes is that they're going to have to do homework, and depressed patients generally are feeling pretty down and not very motivated. And so doing homework can be really, really challenging. And that can be something that depressed patients really don't want to do, and they kind of don't do when they're in therapy. For anxiety, it's very different. Most anxious patients actually are very eager to do as much homework as you want to give them. So they don't have that problem. But what they don't want to do, that's going to be really hard, that they're going to have to do, is face their fear, right? Because they're scared. And in order to get over their fear, talking about it isn't going to be enough, right? They're going to actually have to go out and face their fear. So that's the thing that we're talking about when we talk about anxiety. And we'll focus on those 2 today. But just so you know, for relationship problems, there's also something people aren't going to want to do, that if they were going to get over their difficulty and conflict with another person, they're going to have to look at their own role, and they're going to have to work on themselves and take blame and responsibility. And that's going to be really hard. And for habits and addictions, of course, what they're going to have to do, they're not going to want to do, is give up, the thing that they're doing, right? And that's hard because they're going to experience urges and cravings, and there's going to be a lot of work in having to give up this thing that's very pleasurable. But again, we'll focus on depression and anxiety today.
Ok, hoy nos vamos a enfocar en nada más depresión y ansiedad, y la resistencia al proceso es este trabajo duro que tiene que hacer el paciente y que a veces no está listo, no puede o no quiere hacerlo. Vemos que cuando hablamos de depresión, la resistencia al proceso para el paciente va a ser hacer las tareas que se le dejan. Y cuando hablamos de ansiedad, aquí lo que va a ser difícil para nuestro paciente va a ser la exposición. También existe esto para relaciones, hábitos y adicciones, pero el día de hoy no vamos a hablar de eso.
Okay. So just to point out a little bit about the difference also between process and outcome resistance. So Victoria, you guys have talked about outcome resistance before?
Most of them know that. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just say a little bit here. Just when you think about outcome resistance, it's very specific to the patient, right? You know, like what is important to this patient and what are good reasons that this particular patient isn't going to want to get better. But with process resistance, it's not really that specific to the patient, actually. Once you know what kind of problem the patient has, you can actually anticipate and know what kind of resistance you're going to face. And in some ways, it has more to do with the therapist. It's like you as a therapist, what do you think your patient is going to need to do in order to get better? And that's generally the thing you're going to have to talk about during process resistance, right? Like if I had an anxious patient, it's the idea that in order to help them, I believe they have to be willing to do exposure. And so that's what I'm going to focus on when I talk about process resistance. So you don't need to know a lot about a patient in order to know and be able to start to address process resistance.
Ok, nos dice Jill que en realidad no tenemos que saber como mucho del paciente. Lo más importante es saber cuál es el problema que quiere trabajar y entonces nos podemos anticipar sabiendo el problema que quiere trabajar, que eso se recuerdan es la conceptualización. Por eso es tan importante la conceptualización, saber qué problema tiene, nos ayuda a anticiparnos a qué clase de resistencia al proceso va a tener y nos ayuda a anticiparnos también a ver qué clase de métodos vamos a usar con este paciente en específico.
Okay. So I just wanted to say that some therapists will ask, well, when are we going to talk about process resistance with our patients, right? So if you think about it, again, what I said is we're anticipating that there's going to be something we're going to ask the patient to do that they might not want to do. And so I start talking about it right at the very beginning. So even when I talk to a patient over the phone, I don't go through all the steps that I'm teaching you today, but I do mention things like, you know, I tell them that I do cognitive behavioral therapy, right? And that this treatment is very active and very directive, and that homework is a really important part of treatment. That actually, I think what we do in session is important, but even more important is what they do outside of session. And so I ask them over the phone, how does that sound to you? Does that sound like the kind of treatment that you're looking for? Because that's the kind of treatment that I do. So I start that conversation really early on because, again, who I want to work with is I want to work with patients who want to do the kind of therapy that I do, right? And so I think it's very respectful to share with them, this is the way that I work. Does that sound good to you? If it doesn't, that's okay. I totally understand, right? So this is the stance that we're trying is to share with them what we have to offer and what we think they need to do to get better and to sort of let them make the choice. So we can do that over the phone. We can do that, you know, kind of right at the end of the intake process when you start understanding more about your patient, or you can bring it up throughout therapy when the patient is kind of not doing what you think they need to do, like coming late to sessions or not doing their homework or not doing something that you think that they need to be doing.
Ok, entonces esto, ¿cómo le explicamos a nuestro paciente lo de la resistencia al proceso? Desde la llamada telefónica es en donde empezamos a decirle al paciente cómo es la forma como nosotros trabajamos. Nos dice Jill que es mostrarle un respeto, decirle al paciente, esta es la forma que yo trabajo y vas a tener que hacer las tareas si vamos a trabajar juntos. Es muy importante lo que hacemos en sesión, pero es todavía más importante todo lo que tú puedes lograr haciendo en casa durante toda la semana, haciendo tus tareas. Entonces, podemos decírselo desde la llamada telefónica, podemos decirlo también cuando estamos haciendo realmente el encuadre, ¿no? La entrevista, o podemos también cuando estamos viendo que el paciente está llegando tarde a las sesiones, que no está haciendo la tarea y que no está trabajando bien.
Okay, so the tools that we'll use that I'll be talking to you about today and that we'll demonstrate are these 4 things. So we say we want to dangle the carrot. That's when we tell the patient that we would really love to help them with the problem that they're presenting with. So I'd love to help you to overcome your depression. And I have some really great tools, really great treatment strategies to offer. Like, I totally believe, that we can bring about change. And so that's dangling the carrot, kind of instilling hope. And then we have the gentle ultimatum, which is when we say, but in order to help you, right? In order to get you to where you really want to go, there's going to be some hard work involved. And that's when you spell out what that hard work is. It might mean that you're going to have to do daily homework in the case of depression, or you're going to have to face your fears in the case of anxiety. But we kind of talk about that during the gentle ultimatum. And then we do this thing, the fallback position, which is where we say, I like to combine actually 3 and 4, sitting with open hands and the fallback position. So I'll explain it, but then you'll see when I do it, they're oftentimes together. So the fallback position is essentially saying, I understand if that isn't, what you're wanting, but in that case, like either I wouldn't be a great person to work with you, or maybe we would need to work on something else. It's basically saying, if that doesn't sound good to you, here are other options that we can pursue, rather than, if that doesn't sound good to you, well, I guess I'll just do it your way, right? It's instead saying, this is the way that I do it. If that doesn't sound good to you, let's talk about other options, right? And sitting with open hands is essentially saying, I totally respect you, and this is your decision, right? I'm not going to try to convince you to do it my way or convince you to work with me.
Ok, entonces aquí nos está enseñando las 4 herramientas que tenemos para poder hacer lo que es el proceso, pues la resistencia al proceso, ¿sí? El primero es dangling the carrot, ya saben, es colgar la zanahoria, y es en donde nosotros mostramos mucho entusiasmo con el paciente y le damos esperanza, porque tenemos muy buenas herramientas para trabajar y ayudarlo a mejorarlo, ¿sí? Como decimos, hay que hacer una zanahoria jugosa. Después del gentle ultimatum es cuando le explicamos, pero para que esto suceda, bueno, vas a tener que hacer las tareas y que a veces van a ser un poco difíciles. Y cuando hacemos fallback position y nos sentamos con las manos abiertas, es cuando si esto no está bien para el paciente y no es lo que está buscando, decirle que comprendemos perfectamente que quizá no es el tipo de terapia que busca, y podemos preguntarle si hay otra cosa en la que quiere ayuda, o simplemente si quisiera tener otra opción, y podríamos ayudarlo a buscar otra opción con otro terapeuta, pero que sepa siempre que aquí va a estar abierta la puerta y que puede regresar cuando quiera y nos puede volver a llamar.
Okay. So now I'm going to just go through each of those 4 steps in more detail, right? So again, the dangling the carrot, that is when you want to convey to the patient that you really do have something great to offer, and give them a sense of hope, and kind of clarify what it is that you have to offer in therapy. And the goal of this is to motivate the patient, right? To have them, to encourage them to commit to doing this work, because there's something really wonderful kind of on the other side.
Y cuando hacemos colgar la zanahoria, como habíamos dicho, es el momento en donde mostramos muchísimo entusiasmo y esperanza para el paciente, trabajar con nuestras grandes herramientas, y la meta es motivar al paciente.
Okay, so this is, for example, what you could say, something like, I'd love to help you with reducing your social anxiety, and I have some great tools to share with you. I think that we could really help you to feel comfortable in social situations and not worry so much about what other people think of you.
Algo que podríamos decir es algo parecido a esto: me encantaría ayudarte a reducir tu ansiedad social, y tengo herramientas que son increíbles, que me gustaría compartir contigo, y creo que realmente te van a ayudar a sentirte mucho más cómodo en situaciones sociales y no preocuparte tanto acerca de lo que otros piensan de ti.
Okay, so this is just another example. You might say to a depressed patient, I know that you're feeling really down and depressed, and I'd love to help you to overcome your depression and to feel happy and connected again. I think if we work hard together, we can accomplish your goals.
Este es otro ejemplo en donde podríamos decir, sé que te estás sintiendo realmente cabizbajo y deprimido, y me encantaría trabajar contigo para que puedas ponerte a esta depresión y que puedas sentirte más contento y más conectado otra vez. Yo creo que si trabajas duro y trabajamos duro juntos, pues vamos a poder lograr nuestras metas o tus metas.
So when you use dangling the carrot, that's probably the easy part, right? Because that's kind of the good news, right? But then when we move on to the gentle ultimatum, that's when we have to kind of be more firm with the patient. That's maybe the bad news, if you will, right? And that's where you want to set kind of the realistic expectation that there is some hard work associated with making significant change, right? So you need to be clear in your own mind what you think is needed for the client to recover. And so I do think this is something different therapists have different thoughts about what is needed, right? For me, I do think that patients need to be willing to do homework outside of therapy. And I do think that anxious patients need to be willing to face their fears, because I don't think it's possible to recover from anxiety if you're not actually facing your anxiety. That wouldn't be true recovery for me. So you need to be really clear in your mind, and you want to deliver the message with some warmth and empathy. And you have to know that could increase motivation, where someone says, yes, I'm willing to do the work. Or you could have someone who says, oh, no, thank you. You know, that doesn't sound so good. And that has to be okay with you, right? You have to be in the mindset that's, I only want to work with people who want to do the work they're going to need. I don't want to be in a relationship with someone where they're not really making significant change and not committed to significant change.
Y entonces vemos que colgar nuestras zanahorias es la parte que es la más fácil, porque es donde ahí estamos ofreciendo esperanza y estamos dando mucho entusiasmo. Cuando ya vamos al gentle ultimatum es más difícil, porque ahí tenemos que enseñarles que hay que hacer un trabajo fuerte, un trabajo que puede llegar a ser muy difícil. Y dice Jill que, bueno, cada terapeuta va a tener sus pensamientos acerca de qué es lo que conviene hacer a cada paciente, pero ella nos habla que cuando hay ansiedad, la única manera de poderla sobrepasar, el miedo, es enfrentándolo. Si no enfrentamos al miedo, no vamos a poder salir adelante, y esa es una de las cosas que a veces puede llegar a ser muy difícil, y si el paciente no está listo, no quiere hacerlo, hay que mostrar todo el respeto a que este no es su tiempo.
And I'll just say one more thing on this slide, and you can translate this too. Most of the time, if you do a good carrot and an empathic, gentle ultimatum, you know, even patients who don't have such strong motivation, they actually end up coming after you, right? They end up chasing you, right? When you say, this is what you need to do to get better, and I'd love to help you, you know, most patients will say, okay, you know, I'll do that. I want to work with you, right?
Oh, thank you. Dice que igual cuando nosotros hablamos con el paciente, le decimos, para que tú puedas mejorar, esto es lo que vas a tener que hacer. Nos dice que la mayoría de los pacientes sí van a querer hacerlo, sí van a querer intentar.
So this is what you might say in a gentle ultimatum. So Richard, it sounds like you really want help with your panic disorder, and I would love to work with you on that. I think we could do great work together. That's actually the carrot, right? And then the gentle ultimatum. The techniques that I use to treat anxiety involve having you face your fears, and this can be very challenging. In my experience, exposure therapy, or facing your fears repeatedly with my help, is extremely effective, but it requires hard work on your part, both in and outside of sessions. Are you willing to do this hard work with me?
Ok, entonces esto es algo que podemos decir. Mira, Richard, suena que de verdad quieres ayuda con tus ataques de pánico, ¿sí? Y me encantaría trabajar contigo en esto. Y yo creo que podemos hacer un gran trabajo juntos, que esto es colgar la zanahoria. Pero estas técnicas que yo tengo para tratar la ansiedad van a estar involucrados, que tú vas a tener que enfrentar a cosas que son bastante retadoras, ¿sí? En mi experiencia, la terapia de exposición, o como se puede decir, que enfrentar a tus grandes miedos, con mi ayuda, va a ser extremadamente efectivo, pero si vas a requerir de un trabajo fuerte de tu parte. Los dos, aquí en la sesión y también afuera de la sesión vas a tener que trabajar fuerte. ¿Realmente tú tienes este deseo de hacer este trabajo fuerte conmigo?
Oops, let me too. So you can also say something like, if I agreed to help you with your depression, would you be willing to do written therapy homework every day, even if you didn't feel like it, for a whole month for someone with depression? Do you want to do that? Yeah.
Ya. También les podemos decir, si decido que puedo trabajar contigo, ¿estarías dispuesto a hacer tareas escritas durante la semana? Aunque puede ser que no tengas el deseo de hacerlo, ¿crees que lo harías?
Or you could say, I'd love to help you with your OCD, and I believe it could be quite successful. That's a little carrot, right? But I don't know how to eliminate any form of anxiety without confronting it. So if you'd like my help, you'll need to be willing to face your fears repeatedly in order to get past them. For example, we'll have you leave the house without checking the locks and the appliances, and we'll work on tolerating the anxiety without engaging in the compulsive behaviors. Are you willing to do this work with me?
Ok, entonces cuando estamos con un paciente que tiene un trastorno obsesivo compulsivo, le podemos decir, mira, yo tengo estas herramientas que son súper efectivas, que eso es parte de colgar otra vez la zanahoria, pero quiero saber si puedes realmente trabajar y que tengas este trabajo de enfrentar repetidamente a eso que tanto temes, ¿sí? Como por ejemplo, quizá quieras salir de la casa y tengas que salir sin ir a checar la llave del gas, por ejemplo.
Okay, and then there's the fallback position and sitting with open hands, right? So the fallback position again is, what are we going to do if you say no, right? If the patient says, I don't really want to do that, what does the therapist have to offer? So that we don't want to say, oh, okay, we can do it your way, right? Because then basically we're doing what we think is not effective therapy. So what are we going to do if the patient says, no, not really? And that is the fallback position. And so you can think about what your fallback position is, and maybe you all want to discuss this or brainstorm or think about it. It might depend on where you work or the community you work in, but two things that are possible is we could say, for example, if a patient says, I'm not going to do any homework, I might say, I don't think I'm a good fit for you, right? I don't know how to help you without having you do homework, but maybe it would make sense for us to try to find another therapist for you that would be able to work well with you and wouldn't expect you to do homework. Is that what you're looking for? Or maybe if the patient said, for example, that they didn't want to do any exposure therapy, but maybe I knew that they also wanted help with a relationship problem, I could say, I wouldn't be able to help you get over your anxiety without exposure. But if there's something else you wanted my help with, like, for example, your relationship with your husband, that might be something we could work on and you wouldn't have to do exposure. So those are kind of the fallback position is, what else are we going to do? And here are two options.
Ok, aquí lo que vemos es qué le vamos a hacer cuando el paciente nos dice, no quiero hacer la tarea. no la voy a hacer. Entonces, dice que cada terapeuta tendrá su fallback position. Te va a depender de la cultura y de la comunidad con la que están trabajando. Vamos a ver qué podemos hacer, decirle que yo no voy a ser el terapeuta adecuado para ti. Esa sería la primera opción y te puedo referir con alguna colega que sea muy, muy buena, pero que no te vaya a dejar tarea. O la segunda opción puede ser que tiene un problema de ansiedad y el paciente no quiere hacer exposición, entonces te dice, no, eso no lo voy a trabajar, pero podemos preguntarle, ¿hay otra cosa en la que deseas ayuda? Y quizá tenga algún problema de relación con el esposo y te diga, no quiero hacer exposición, no quiero trabajar esto, pero sí quiero trabajar mi relación con mi esposo y podemos hacerlo.
And then they're sitting with open hands, right? And this goes along with the fallback position, right? We kind of do them together. So we're gonna give the client the option, right, to work hard with us and do the hard work, or maybe they wanted to work with someone else who doesn't require this work, or maybe they want to work on something else. So sitting with open hands is just to say, this is really up to you. You know, you get to make this choice, rather than trying to force the patient or encourage the patient to work with you. So we're gonna, even if, let's say you have a patient who has very strong OCD, but they say, no, thank you, I don't want to do any exposure therapy, but we have to be willing to accept the fact that they may not get better. We have to let them go because we know that we can't convince them to change against their will, and that that's not going to make for productive therapy, and it's not going to help them in the long run.
Ok, cuando hacemos el open hands, lo hacemos con el fallback position, y ahí es estar aceptando la decisión del paciente si quiere o no quiere trabajar, ¿no? Y cuando el paciente dice que no, tenemos que aceptarlo. No tratamos de convencer al paciente de que trabaje con nosotros, aunque, por ejemplo, si tenemos un paciente que tiene OCD, que tiene trastorno obsesivo compulsivo, y sabemos que la única forma en que va a mejorar es a través de la exposición. Si el paciente no quiere, lo respetamos y no lo tratamos de convencer, no lo empujamos para que lo haga.
So here's an example of using the fallback position and sitting with open hands. So you imagine that you've dangled the carrot and you did the gentle ultimatum and you said, you know, what do you think? And then the patient says, I don't know, that sounds too hard, right? Something like that. And so then we might say, Jennifer, it sounds like you have some concerns about doing this work with me. You're saying that it sounds too challenging and that you were hoping you might be able to get better with just some support and encouragement. I wish that I could treat your anxiety without the use of exposure therapy, but my experience tells me that this is a necessary ingredient in effective treatment of anxiety, and I don't feel comfortable stringing you along in treatment and not offering you the most effective form of therapy. I'm certain, though, that there are other providers, other therapists who would be happy to treat you without recommending exposure therapy. And I would love to work with you. I definitely don't want to force this treatment on you. Do you think that you would prefer to work with someone else who could provide you with supportive therapy?
Ok, entonces esto es algo que podemos decir cuando estamos haciendo fallback position con open hands, cuando estamos trabajando con ansiedad, por ejemplo. Entonces podemos decir, Jennifer, parece que tienes muchas preocupaciones acerca de hacer este trabajo conmigo. Me estás diciendo que suena demasiado retador y que tú estás esperando que no tengas y tú estás esperando que tú puedas mejorar con algún soporte y una guía. Yo quisiera tratar tu ansiedad sin tener que usar la exposición, la terapia de exposición, pero en mi experiencia me dice que esto es un ingrediente muy necesario y muy efectivo en el tratamiento de ansiedad. No me siento realmente cómoda tratándote y no ofreciéndote el tratamiento más efectivo y la forma más efectiva de terapia. Estoy segura que también existen otro tipo de proveedores que estarían encantados de tratarte sin recomendarte hacer exposición, esta terapia de exposición. Sin embargo, a mí me encantaría trabajar contigo y definitivamente yo no quiero forzarte tampoco a hacer un tratamiento que no estés listo. ¿Tú crees que tú preferirías hacer el trabajo con alguien diferente que te pueda proveer simplemente soporte, ayuda, contención?
Okay, so Victoria, do you want, I know it's a lot for you to translate. Do you want me, so I have some of these slides just with examples on it, and then I guess I go back and review some of them. Do you want,
Yeah.
I'm happy to skip any of these too that have a lot of words on them. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do that like that.
Okay. And also, I guess I can do some of them and you can not translate in case some people can understand me, right? Without you translating. So maybe if you want, I'll just review these and you don't have to translate. I'm just reviewing. And then if you want, I can answer questions and then we can do a demonstration.
Perfect.
Okay. So again, the carrot, remember, is this, I have something good to offer you, right? So I'd love to help you with your depression and I have some wonderful tools to share with you. And then the gentle ultimatum is, but if you're going to work with me and get over your depression, there's going to be some hard work that you have to do, right? And are you willing to do that work? You want to ask them that question. And then when we demonstrate it, we're going to give a minute and let the patient answer the question. If the patient says, yes, let's do the work, then you don't have to use sitting with open hands or the fallback position. But if the patient says, I don't know, that sounds hard, maybe a little, then it's helpful to clarify, what needs to be done and to sit with open hands. So to say to the patient, this is a lot. I can understand if you don't want to do this, right? I would love to work with you and I'm not trying to get rid of you. I think we could do some great work together, but if you want to work with me, you'd have to do the homework. That's not negotiable, right? And then we can do the fallback position, which is if that isn't what you're looking for, I would totally understand that. I'm sad that I wouldn't have a chance to work with you, but I would totally respect your decision. And we could always try to find you someone else to work with that wouldn't expect you to do homework or that wouldn't expect you to do exposure. And then you can also say this part here, which is if you do work with someone else and then you change your mind and you want to come back and work with me because you decided you're ready to do the homework, well, you can always contact me in the future and I would be happy to help you. So the very important thing maybe to communicate is that you're not kicking them out at all. You're just clarifying what it is you have to offer. I don't know if you want to say anything about that or if I should keep going.
Yeah. Bueno, esto lo que acaba de hacer es el repaso de todo lo que ya habíamos traducido, de cada paso, de los 4 pasos que hay que hacer, que es colgar la zanahoria, gentle ultimatum. Cuando el paciente hacemos ya el gentle ultimatum y dice que sí quiere trabajar, ya no hay que hacer open hands y fallback position. Y bueno, finalmente aquí lo importante es que no vamos a tratar nunca de empujar al paciente y vamos a respetar lo que el paciente quiere.
And Victoria, one analogy that I like to use, but you tell me if you can change it if it's more helpful, but because some therapists think this sounds very harsh, right? But I like to think that it's actually very caring because I actually want to help my patients do effective therapy. So the analogy that I like to use is like if you went to the doctor and you had pneumonia, and the doctor said, okay, I can help you with your pneumonia. You just need to take penicillin 3 times a day, every day. And then you said, I don't know. I don't think I want to take penicillin. Then your doctor would say, I'm sorry, I don't know how to help you get over your pneumonia without taking penicillin. If you wanted acupuncture for your pneumonia, I'd be happy to refer you to someone for acupuncture, but the only way that I know how to treat pneumonia is with penicillin.
Okay, yes, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will take it.
Okay.
Lo que nos dice Jill es que sí, en algunos terapeutas les parece que es muy fuerte decirle al paciente no sé cómo ayudarte y si quieres te puedo referir. Cuando empezamos a estudiar esto nos suena muy complicado, pero es como esto en vez de ser muy fuerte y como un terapeuta que no fuera empático, es todo lo contrario, es un terapeuta que cuida de su paciente y quiere ofrecerle el mejor de los tratamientos. Es como si vas con un neumólogo porque tienes neumonía y te dice, sí, yo sé cómo ayudarte, tienes que tomar la penicilina por tantos días. Y tú le dices, no, yo no quiero tomar penicilina. Entonces el doctor te va a decir, si no quieres tomar la penicilina, entonces realmente no sé cómo ayudarte. Es una analogía que pues me encantó a mí.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, right, you want to make sure you use these methods with care and empathy and also finding your own voice, right? Like you will find different ways to say this, and the slides are just meant to give you a couple of ideas. It's not important exactly what you say, but more that the message is that comes across, like the themes, right, of the carrot and the gentle ultimatum and sitting with open hands.
Y nada más nos dice Jill que aquí estos son unos ejemplos que nos está dando cómo poder hacerlo. Lo importante es hacerlo con empatía y con respeto y con cuidado, y cada quien tendrá su propio estilo.
Okay, so this is the same idea, right? Just to balance the warmth and the empathy and the caring with the accountability, right? So what we can do, Victoria, and I kind of wrote this is what we can do as a demonstration. And then of course, if you guys want to practice this, I don't know if do you have another hour together after I leave?
No.
Or no, okay. So like in a future group, if you wanted to practice, what you can do is you have, we'll have, in this case, Victoria can be the patient. And I think Victoria is going to be a patient maybe who struggles with depression. Again, you don't need to know very much about the patient, just that she struggles with depression. And then I could dangle the carrot and I could do the gentle ultimatum around needing to do homework. And then for the exercise, the patient has to respond by saying, I don't know, this sounds hard, something like that. And then the therapist can offer the fallback position and sitting with open hands. And then you can stop and get feedback, and then you can practice again.
Ok, bueno, ya no nos va a dar tiempo para hacer pequeños grupos y poder practicar, pero ahorita Jill va a hacer una demostración en donde yo voy a hacer un paciente que tiene depresión, va a hacer, colgar la zanahoria, va a hacer el gentle ultimatum, pero yo voy a hacer un paciente que no quiere hacer la tarea y entonces ya me va a hacer fallback position, sitting with open hands, y después vamos a dar el feedback. Y si tienen preguntas y eso, podemos hacerlas.
So Victoria, should I see if we have any questions that anyone wants to ask first, and then you and I could do a demonstration?
Ok. ¿Alguien tiene alguna pregunta que le quiera hacer a la doctora? ¿Algún comentario, pregunta? ¿Les queda claro?
A mí, maestra Victoria, no comprendí el fall position, fall o back position. No le entendí.
Okay. Sí, María Elena. Fallback position es cuando el paciente no quiere hacer la tarea, se rehúsa, y entonces le explicamos que no podemos, que no sabemos cómo ayudarlo de otra manera, porque esta es la manera efectiva y nosotros queremos que él reciba el mejor tratamiento para poder lograr sus metas. Entonces, si no quiere hacer la tarea, podemos referirlo a algún otro colega que sea muy bueno, pero que no le haga que haga la exposición.
Gracias, maestra. Gracias.
¿Alguien más tiene, vi una mano por ahí, Silvina?
Sí, Mireya levantó la mano, no sé si era para hacer una pregunta o un comentario.
Sí, era para hacer una pregunta respecto a los pacientes que quieren trabajar o que no quieren trabajar. Nada más, no es referente a la terapia, pero por ejemplo, en mi trabajo a menudo me encuentro con personas, con padres, porque yo trabajo para la comunidad, con padres que traen este cierto tipo de problemas, depresión, ansiedad, pero también no los deja avanzar en su vida cotidiana. Y luego vienen conmigo y yo ya tengo el conocimiento de TEAM-CBT y trato de trabajar con ellos para ver si realmente quieren ayuda para resolver primero sus problemas personales, que no los deja avanzar en los problemas que luego tienen con sus familias o sus hijos, pero veo cierta resistencia, pero también veo que no aceptan, o ¿cómo me explico? No, o sea, no quieren todavía trabajar, pero ¿cómo tú actúas en este tipo de situaciones? Porque
Mireya, ¿puedes decirlo en inglés para que te entienda la doctora?
sí,
Jill, por favor.
no puedo, no hablo inglés, Miss
No, okay.
Victoria. Me
Okay.
quedaría en Spanglish, pero lo único que a mí me ha ayudado mucho TEAM-CBT con usted, maestra, en mi vida personal y laboral. Pero cuando yo me encuentro este tipo de personas en la comunidad que trabajan de alguna manera conmigo, en mi ejemplo sencillo se lo voy a poner, les damos una solución, pero luego buscan un problema para cada solución. Pero aquí sería cuánto tiempo es de verdad que puedes atender a una persona teniéndole paciencia, empatía, hasta cuánto tiempo tú puedes de verdad trabajar eso con alguien, sino cuándo soltarlo.
Okay, bien. Jill, she's Mireya. She has taken the LICBT program from Pomona Valley.
Yeah.
And she asks that she works with the parents of the kids, and that they go with her sometimes, and she can offer some tools because she learned about TEAM-CBT in the program, but sometimes she's looking that they don't want to do the homeworks and they don't want to do to work hard. So she's asking how much time does she has to stay with them and to be talking with them, and when is the time to say, okay, you don't want to work, so I can refer you.
Right. She's asking like when to do that in the work.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's hard. I don't have an answer for what session or how long you should do that. I guess I have two thoughts, and one is if you're in a situation where you do not feel that you can stop seeing someone because you think that's not the right thing for you to do or something, then you can also just say to them, I want you to understand that the kind of therapy, if we don't do homework or if we don't do exposure, the kind of therapy we'll be doing will not be very effective, right? So I'm willing to continue to see you, or, you know, if you want to continue to see me, I can continue to see you, but the therapy is not going to be very helpful. And so in this case with the parents, I would be saying, if you're not going to take action, if you're not going to do the homework, your children are not going to improve, right?
Okay, thank you. Lo que te dice Mireya es cuando los padres de familia se te acercan y ves que no quieren hacer el trabajo, lo que puedes es decirles que realmente tú puedes platicar con ellos, pero si no se ponen a hacer el trabajo duro, no van a mejorar. Entonces, si tú estás ofreciendo la terapia y ellos no quieren trabajar, bueno, pues tu deseo es trabajar con ellos y ofrecerles que sea muy efectivo y que resuelvan sus problemas. Pero si no quieren trabajar, pues nada más será hablar. La otra cosa es que si ellos no mejoran, también les puedes decir, tus hijos tampoco van a mejorar, también van a seguir arrastrando los problemas. Entonces, tienes que comprometerte a trabajar duro para que también se refleje con tu familia, con tus hijos. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, maestra. Muchas gracias.
Ok, ¿alguien más?
Sí,
There was
tiene
one more
el
hand.
nombre iPhone puesto, así que no sé el nombre, pero tenía su mano levantada para hacer una pregunta.
Creo que soy yo.
Sí, gracias.
Sí. Bueno, no sé si hay tiempo porque me gustaría ver lo que van a hacer la demostración, pero basically it's the same. I have a patient that I'm working with her, but has a very, very hard resistance. She wants to talk a lot and enjoy the session. She has OCD, but for her, it's not a problem. She doesn't want to work on that, but she has a very hard resistance to doing the homework. And it's the same like Mireya. I don't know how many more sessions I had to do with her. And I don't know how to explain it because I feel like it is very hard to do the tangling the carrot. But
Well, I don't think it would be so hard for you to dangle the carrot. I think it would be hard for you to do the fallback position, right?
yeah,
Because the carrot, I guess it might be easy for you to say, I would love to help you with your OCD. I would love to do productive therapy with you and have you getting better and doing your, but that would mean you would have to do this homework. And I'm not sure from what you said, whether it's that she won't do exposure, like even in session with you, or she won't do her homework, or both.
The
She
homework.
won't do either.
The homework that is for the exposure because
Exposure homework.
the anxiety too, but
Yeah.
it's very resistant. Like when I say something, this is the homework. She says no, and I say, oh my God, it's like,
Right.
well, I'm gonna give you like another session and give the time to see if the next session, but.
Right. So you have to make a choice, right? I know it's hard. That's why I'm smiling. It's hard to do this. It's tough. But you have to make a choice, right? If you keep seeing her and you're not actually really helping her with her OCD, she's not going to get better in terms of her OCD. So maybe she doesn't want to get better. Maybe she, and then you have to decide. But again, if you're going to use this method, then you would say to her, I feel so sad that you're not wanting to work on doing the homework. I know that if you don't do the homework, that you're not going to get better, right? I've been seeing you for however long, and your OCD symptoms aren't improving because you're not, doing the homework. And I would love to help you to get over your OCD, but then you would have to do blah, blah, blah. And if you don't want to do that, then you have to decide what your fallback position is. And then maybe you say, then I think we probably should, wrap up our treatment together because I don't think that I'm actually helping you with the symptoms that you're struggling
sometimes
with, right?
I feel stuck. It's like I feel stuck, and I feel that there is the big elephant around us, and
right. Right. And the problem is that if you don't talk about it, then she thinks she's doing therapy and it's just not working.
Yeah.
Instead of realizing, oh, I'm not doing therapy, right? I'm talking, but I'm not actually working. That's why I'm not getting better. Yeah. And sometimes I say that to patients, I don't want you to stay in therapy that's not effective, because then you'll leave therapy thinking, oh, therapy didn't work. But actually, therapy would work if you were willing to do it, right? Yeah. So it's like really holding your feet to the fire. That's what we say.
Okay. Thank you. I like your examples. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so let's go to the demonstration.
Should we do the demonstration?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to do like dangling the carrot and then jump to ultimatum, and then I'll ask you, and then you'll kind of, you know, and then I'll try to sit with open hands and do the fallback position. As you guys could see, the earlier you do this in therapy, the better, because now you guys are into therapy with people trying to figure out what to do now that they're not really doing what they need to do. So we'll imagine this is early in therapy. So I say, Victoria, you know, you've told me that you've been struggling a lot with depression. You've been feeling really down and not motivated, having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. And, you know, I would love to help you to feel better and to get back into life again and to overcome your depression. And I totally believe that we could do really good work together and have you feeling happy again. So I would love to do that work with you. And I just want to let you know before we get started that working with me means that you're going to actually have to do homework, even when you don't feel like it. So I know you haven't been feeling good and you're feeling down, but I want to let you know, in order to overcome your depression, I'm going to give you exercises and activities that I'm going to ask you to do every single day for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes it'll be written exercises. Sometimes it might mean reading something. Sometimes it might be going out of the house. But yeah, there's going to be certain expectations of things you're going to have to do in order to overcome your depression. And so I'm wondering, are you going to be willing to do that work with me?
Oh, Jill. Oh, you know that I feel so bad. I don't have energy. I really feel a lot of hope to work with you because you say that you can help me to be happy. But I cannot understand why should I do homework if I don't feel well, I don't have energy, and I don't have the will to do anything now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so sad to hear that. I know that you have been struggling, and I can imagine that doing homework sounds really hard. And that's why I'm bringing it up now, you know, because I want to make sure that we both understand what it takes to get better. And Victoria, if I knew how to help you overcome your depression without having you do anything about it, I would surely offer you that. But I don't know how to do that. The treatment that I do really depends on you doing the work inside of session and outside of session. And we'll you know, carve out small chunks of time, 10 or 15 minutes every single day. So it's not a big task, but at the same time, it is required. And so if that doesn't sound like something that you can do, I would understand that, but then I don't think I would be the best person to work with you, because the only way that I know how to get you over this depression is by doing daily homework. So tell me what you think. If that doesn't sound good to you, I would totally understand and respect you. I would be sad to see you go, but I would be willing to, you know, help you find a referral to someone else in the community that wouldn't require homework of you.
Okay.
What do you think?
It sounds that if I work, I will be better. So
Right.
Is it possible to try and let's see how I am doing? Can I have this chance?
Yes, if you're willing to do the work and you're willing to try doing the work, then I would love to try that with you.
Okay, so I will stay with you because I really like you. I will give me a chance and I will try.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Entonces, como vieron, le ofrece y le dice, no quiero hacer la tarea, no tengo energía. Y entonces ella le dice que entiende, pero que quizá ella no es la terapeuta adecuada y que si quiere que la refiera. Y entonces el paciente, después de escuchar, porque ella hace mucho énfasis en que esto es la manera como sí te va a ser efectivo y sí vas a poder mejorar en tu depresión, el paciente le dice, ok, quiero tratar, quiero intentarlo, quiero quedarme contigo. Ok. ¿Alguna otra pregunta que quieran hacerle a la doctora Levitt? Pues Silvina, te dejo el micrófono para que cierres esta. You can close this session.
Victoria, can we ask people Do they think they will try this with their patients?
Ok. Dice la doctora Jill que si ustedes creen que van a tratar de hacer esto con sus pacientes, alce la mano el que crea que va a tratar de hacerlo con sus pacientes.
Okay.
Okay, we will try.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay.
Victoria, tenemos 3 preguntas. We have 3
Sí.
questions.
Okay.
Raquel
tiene?
Aspani y bajaron la mano 2 personas, a Nicole Palmer. Y no puedo ver quién más tenía su mano levantada. Por favor, si me ayuda.
No, era la manita de que sí lo vamos a practicar.
Ah, ok. Raquel también estaba
Lo
haciendo
mismo
manita de
yo,
que sí.
Lo mismo yo, no la puedo bajar.
Ok.
Okay, so everybody can want to try that, and let's see how they will be with the clients. So we will see.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sounds
And si ya no, Silvina, can you close this session, please?
Yes, Jill, first thing I want to thank you for coming, visiting us, and for all your help and your class, your master class. And is the main idea of today's class that therapy homework is not negotiable, even when we hold no judgment, and we take the patient's resistance side instead of pushing him to persuade him to change.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It was such an honor having you. I hope we can have you home here in Mexico soon.
That would be
We
fun.
really appreciate your visit.
Okay, thank you guys. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you, Jill.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jill.
Gracias, maestra Victoria.
Gracias a todos y
Gracias a
Thank
todos.
you. Bye
nos
bye.
vemos
Gracias a
pronto.
todos. Sí, gracias. Bye.
Gracias.
Gracias.